I want to talk to the dead, and I believe that you won't hurt me. I trust you. Talk to me. Horror movies. Personally, horror movies are my favorite genre of movies. I've been watching them since I was probably about 4 or 5 years old. Nowadays, there's no real good horror movies. I'm usually disappointed when I end up watching throughout the years. This year, I haven't really started watching too many movies, so I can't really say if there's a good horror movie for 2024. But I will say that there was a horror movie for 2023 that I can say entertained me. And that movie is Talk to Me. Have you seen it? If you haven't seen it and you want to learn more about it, I'll tell you all about it. Let's get to Talk to Me. The movie opens up to a teenage house party. There's a young man trying to find his brother who's locked himself in one of the rooms in the houses. He finds the room and then he's knocking on the door, but his brother isn't answering the door, so he knocks it down. I guess with all the commotion, everybody decides to break out their cameras and phones and start recording. Once he turns around and see that everybody is recording him, he tries to get everybody to stop before his brother comes out. And then he gets stabbed by his brother, who's clearly going through something. You can see there's something's wrong. After he stabs his brother, he walks out into the backyard and then stabs himself in the face. So that's the beginning of the movie. And then we are moved into the next scene where we meet the main character, whose name is Mia. She is at her mother's grave. I believe it's like the second anniversary of her mother's death. So going through sadness and confusion of she lives with her dad, but they're not really speaking that much. She spends most of her time with her best friend Jane and her best friend's brother, Riley, and her mom. She's usually like spending time with them or over at their house, spending the night or something. One day after school, Mia ends up picking up Jane's little brother because Jane forgets to pick him up. So Mia picks him up and then drops him off at her best friend's house. While she's there, her best friend convinces her to go to a house party. But before they can get there, Jane's little brother Riley convinces them to tag along. And basically he tries to blackmail his sister because she left him when she was supposed to be picking him up. So she really has no choice but to allow him to come. But he's going to end up regretting that decision. At the party, Mia and the younger brother are kind of like outcasts, obviously, because the younger brother is younger than the rest of the crowd, and Mia is just, in general, kind of an outcast. And eventually she starts kind of enjoying the party. And the party hosts break out this embalmed hand that belonged to this deceased medium, and they want to play a game. It's kind of a party trick. They can use this hand to conjure up spirits and talk to them. Since we know that Mia's mom is dead, she's going to want to talk to her mom. She is the first one to volunteer for this party trick, and she wants to know if this really actually works. So they light the candle and they tell her what to say. All you have to do is hold on to the hand and say, "Talk to me," and a ghost will appear. It might not be the one that you want, but one will appear. So Mia does this. She holds on to the embalmed hand and says the phrase, "Talk to me." And she's immediately greeted to some old man, which scares the living crap out of her. She immediately lets go, and the crowd convinces her to hold onto the hand again, say the phrase again, and continue on to the next phase. So she holds onto the hand again and says the phrase, "Talk to me" again. And this time, a different spirit shows up who is a bloated woman that looks like she was drowned to death. After she sees that spirit, she says the phrase, "I let you in." And this is when the spirit possesses Mia's body and uses her body to speak. When the spirit is possessing Mia, she hones in on Riley and lets him know that the spirits really want him. Like they really want to talk to him, which is already foreshadowing. That is warning them that he probably shouldn't ever play this game because they are waiting for him to play this game. Riley never does not play this game for this party. By the way, I forgot to mention that when you hold on to this hand, the rules of the hand is that you have to let go and end the whole ritual within 90 seconds, or the ghost will be able to possess your body a little bit more than you want it to. So you're supposed to let go and blow out the candle within 90 seconds. Well, for Mia, when they go to release her from the hand, the ghost jerks her back so that it's harder for them to grab the hand, which means she ends up holding onto the hand for longer than 90 seconds. It's not long enough for the ghost to fully possess her, but it's good enough for them to kind of like latch onto her body and start the phases of possession, right? So, but they're able to get the hand off of Mia and blow out the candle, and that ends that party. So we move on to the next scene. Well, before I move on to the next scene, if they had asked any questions about this hand, they would have realized that the host that produced this hand actually got it from the teenager that stabbed his brother earlier in the movie. And if I would have found that information out, I would never have played that game, because chances are that hand is the reason why he went crazy all of a sudden and started trying to kill people and killed himself, or unalived himself. I'm sorry. Gotta say the right words. You would think they would ask more questions about where they got the hand from and how do they know about it and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, Mia's more worried about trying to communicate with her deceased mother than she is worried about any information that could possibly save her life or prevent her from doing something silly like this. Moving on, Mia convinces Jade to throw another party while her mother is at work, I believe. And she also convinces her to get the two hosts that own the embalmed hand to come to the party so that they can play the game again. And so Jade throws another party and they go ahead and play the game again. And this time you see a bunch of teenagers trying out the hand. They're enjoying it. They're getting possessed. They're enjoying themselves. They're having fun. It's almost like a high for them. They really like playing it. Like it freaks them out, but they're like, oh my God, I want to do it again. It is interesting. I don't know. And I have never been high, so I don't know. Riley sees this because I mean he lives there. So Riley sees this and he's like, I want to try it. Like, can I try it? And at first his sister says no. Like, you're too young. Even I think some of the party goers are like, no, you're too young. You shouldn't do this. But Mia convinces her to change her mind and says that she will just only allow him to hold on to the hand for 60 seconds. But that doesn't happen. So, yeah. So to get Riley in position to do this ritual, he holds onto the hand and says the phrase, of course, talk to me. And then let me in. And when the spirit possesses him, the spirit pretends to be Mia's mom. And the spirit uses Mia's mom as a way to play to Mia's emotions and get Riley to hold on to the hand for longer than 60 seconds. And in fact, he holds on to the hand for about 2 minutes. And after these 2 minutes, the spirit pretty much fully takes over his body. And then he aggressively and violently starts slamming his head onto the table. And as the host started trying to take the hand away from him, the ghost slings him across the room to a dresser and then starts banging his head against the dresser until his sister comes back into the room, which I forgot to tell you that she did leave at some point. And she sees this happening and she immediately runs to save her brother. And she puts her hand in between the dresser and his head, like using it as a pillow almost. And she stops him from fatally crushing his skull and breaking her fingers through all that. So, but it doesn't save him from like horrible damage. He still has to go to the hospital now. and he is in horrible condition. He could barely talk. He's bloodied and battered. His eyes are swollen. And after all this happens, once they get the hand away from him, Mia kind of just goes into shock and then just walks home. And that's it. She just goes into shock, goes home, and gathers herself. And at some point, she ends up going to the hospital to check on Riley to see how he's doing. And Jade and her mom are not allowing Mia anywhere near Riley. Of course, they blame her for what happened to Riley, which, I mean, I would too. So they won't allow Mia to go into the hospital room. But instead, Jade's boyfriend, who's also Mia's friend, he drives her back to her house. He decides to spend the night at Mia's house, so she's not alone. Nothing crazy, it's still on a friendly level, but he just stays there, talks to her, and then they fall asleep together. Then she wakes up to the spirit woman, the one that looked like she drowned, like sucking on Jade's boyfriend's toes. And she's trying to wake him up because she's like, oh my God, like, wake up. I don't know, wake up. And as he's waking up, what he finds instead is Mia sucking on his toes. And she finally actually comes to him and is like, oh my God, I didn't mean to do that. And he's totally creeped out, as anybody would be. And he's just like, no, I don't know what's going on with you. I'm leaving. And he effectively gets out of there. Now that Mia is alone again, her silly self decides to take the hand and do the ritual by herself. It's kind of not the greatest idea, because how is she gonna let go of it if you need somebody else to disconnect you from the hand and you're doing the ritual by yourself? How will you be disconnected from the hand when it's time? When your time is up, that was beyond me, but that's what she decided to do. And when she does the ritual, she sees her mom, and her mom lets her know that Riley's in pain and she needs to help end his suffering. So her and a couple of the other teens from the party, they go to find the young man that we saw in the very beginning of the movie, the one who got stabbed. And they ask him if they know any way of helping Riley. And he says the reason why his brother was acting crazy that night was because he kept using the hand over and over and over again. And if he had stopped using the hand, then they wouldn't have possessed him, and they would have just went away eventually. Eventually, they would just get too weak, and they would just stop possessing his brother. But instead, he kept using the hand, and eventually, they just took over his body completely and caused him to go crazy. So even though he says all this to them, Mia's crazy idea is to connect Riley to the hand again, because she believes that when they were playing the game and the incident happened, they never actually blew out the candle because everything was so crazy. They just disconnected him from the hand, but they never blew out the candle. And so she says he needs to be connected to the hand again, so that they could then disconnect him from the hand and blow out the candle and finish the ritual, like effectively closing it, and then probably disconnecting him from the rest of the spirits. They go back to the hospital. They try to do this ritual again with Riley, but Riley can't speak. He's like in a coma. He's just not there anymore. He has bashed his head in way too many times, and he is just out of it. So instead, Mia decides to play the game so she can see if the spirits will let her into their realm instead. And she gets connected to a young girl, and the young girl spirit says to let Mia into her realm. When Mia is there, she can see that Riley's spirit is being tormented by all the evil spirits that are surrounding him, trying to take over his body, and he's just stuck there. And so when she gets pulled out, she's like, I need to save him. But after this, Mia heads back home, probably, I guess, to figure out what else to do. When she gets home, her dad speaks with her and tells her that her mother's death was not an accident. Originally, Mia thought that her mom accidentally overdosed on her medication, but her dad shows her her mother's suicide note, showing her that it wasn't an accident and that she had actually done it on purpose. She goes to her room to cry on her own. And when she's in her room, her mom shows up and tells her that her dad is lying and that Riley needs to be put out his suffering. And the only way to do that is by killing him. Before Mia is able to leave, that her dad shows up at her door, banging on it, trying to get to her. And then when he's able to bust through her door, he starts attacking her. But this is really just the evil spirits messing around with her. It's not actually her dad at this time. But her real dad hears all the commotion. He goes to check up on her to see what's going on. And when he goes to save her, she gets a scissors and stabs him in the neck. Now, I guess she just kind of goes into shock again or something, because even though she realizes that she stabbed her dad in the neck, instead of her like calling to get help or anything or stopping the bleeding or anything, she just leaves him there to bleed out, and she heads to the hospital so she can unalive Riley. She calls Jade and tells her something to get her out of the hospital. And then once she actually gets to the hospital, she talks to Jade's mom and tells her that she's sorry and she just wants to talk to Riley real quick and give her a few seconds. When she gets in the room with Riley, originally she was going to stab him to death to put him out of his misery, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. So instead, what she does is get a wheelchair, puts Riley in the wheelchair, and then rolls him out to where the highway is. It's like the grass right before the highway, on the side of the highway. And she's standing there and she's getting ready to push him in, and she closes her eyes. And when the scene opens back up, Mia is the one that ends up on the windshield of somebody's car. And I'm not sure if she jumped herself or if Jade saw her and pushed her into the highway to save her brother, because when she opens her eyes, she sees Jade standing next to her brother and like looking at her, at the same time, going back and forth. And so I'm not sure which one happens. But after that, Mia's placed like back at the hospital. You can see that they're trying to save her. But then she sees Riley is looking like he's recovered and everything, and they're talking to him. And then she sees her dad walking out of the hospital, and she goes to call his name, but he's not responding to her. And she realizes nobody's responding to her because she's dead. And then everything goes black. And then she sees a light. And that light is highlighting a hand that's sticking out. And when she grabs hold of that hand, there's a group of teenage boys playing the game Talk to Me. Then that's how the movie ends. Again, I like the movie. I was thinking in real life, and I like watching like ghost haunting things, like haunted jails, prison sites, and haunted houses and stuff. I watch that all day, but I'm not really sure if I would actually believe in ghosts and spirits, and I'm not sure if I actually would want to try to look for them. If they're around, and they could be around, and that's fine. They haven't bothered me yet, but I don't know. Let me personally try to see them eye to eye, especially what they were seeing. They seem like they were seeing ones that died a violent death, and that's not really at all what I would want to see. So that's not my type of thing. But would you want to see ghosts if you went to a party and there was a medium there, or there was somebody with this party trick where you could actually see ghosts and spirits eye to eye? Would you actually play the game? I probably would watch other people play the game, but I probably wouldn't be the one doing it. I just don't see me doing something like that. But I really did like the movie. I would say horror movies these days, directors and producers focus more on being gory and disgusting more than actually scaring people. I haven't really been able to find really good horror movies these days. So let me know if you think that I'm wrong. Maybe it's just the fact that I've been watching them since I was very, very young, and I'm now desensitized from horror movies. Maybe I'm just not scared in general, but I think that I can find the entertainment in a horror movie in a good horror movie if there's one actually available. So name some for me if you know any good ones for these last recent years. Maybe I missed one. I'm starting to get tired of movies like just redoing movies from back in the day and just trying to ride off of their coattails because most of the time they're not doing it better than back in the day. They're not doing it better than the old style. So I don't know, but hopefully they start doing these horror movies really like better and they put more effort into these horror movies. But if you have any movies that you liked and you can point me to and say that this was actually a really good movie, you should check this one out, then let me know. I watch all the genres, so well, my favorite is horror and scary thriller type movies. I will watch martial arts, action, comedy, Disney. I like to watch all the movies. In fact, I'm probably going to go see the new Deadpool tomorrow, probably. So looking forward to it. All right, bye.